a quorum here. We are missing 3 members, but we should be fine. We'll review the minutes from the previous meeting.
Make the motion to accept the minutes as printed.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Transfer requests. I believe the only one that we have is a request of transfer from the reserve funds. Yeah, it says, "Dear committee members, request is hereby made for the following transfer for the reserve fund in accordance with Chapter 40, Section 6, Mass General Laws. Amount requested $6,080. Transferred from account number 001-192-5200-005. Present balance and set appropriation is $38,525.42. The amount is to be used to replace existing heating coil and install new heating coil and confirm proper operation of heating valve, freestat, blower motor, and programming in the controller. This expenditure is unforeseen. This was an untimely failure of the heating coil in the PSB. There will be no heat coming in the fall into the unit until it's replaced. I leave it up to the Finance Committee to determine if this should be a transfer now or fix, and then we'll try to replace the funds in the fall STM. And that was from the Fire Chief, Seth.
So, now we're late.
Motion?
Got that?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I make the motion to discuss transferring $6,080 to account number 001-192-5200-005 to replace the existing heating coil and install a new heating coil.
And I'll second.
Okay, discussion.
So this is now or later. Pay me now,
Correct.
pay me later.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the money can come out of their building account at this point. They have the money in the budget, it's a new fiscal year. But that really was also,
So is the suggestion that we could wait? We could wait until the budget is done to actually fund this repair?
this repair needs to be funded now.
Now, okay.
Whether it's by this transfer or whether it's out of their account. And in the future, if there's something that needs to be done in the building, then the money would need to be transferred.
Okay, so this is the only information we have, is this one sheet, but, I mean, it's simple, it's pretty straightforward, obviously. The coil is, if the coil's ruptured, then it has to be replaced, I can understand that.
Well, what happened was the AC was continuing to work. They didn't know there was an issue. One of the fan belts broke, and it caused the coil. Now, the other part of this is the blower, the freestat, was supposed to shut off and it did not. And the vendor doesn't know why, and that's gonna be completely replaced as well.
So you said the air conditioning. Has
The AC and heat unit are both the same.
Okay, but this is talking, so the AC will run,
The
Yes.
AC runs,
the heat won't run.
correct. It's gonna have to be fixed. Now, I know that we're also looking at changing that system out to incorporate more zones in that building. Right
Yeah.
now, there's only one zone. And the air temperature is based on all the returns.
Yeah, but that's a
That's-
complete balancing. right?
Correct, so that's something they're discussing.
Oh, so where'd that information come from that?
I went and asked
Okay,
Seth to
all
see
right.
what was going on. 'Cause
And they wanna put in separate,
The town is actually working with one of the green companies to come in and look at everything. I don't know if the director knows.
A little bit.
that would, I mean, that would be a good thing if you did that, because there's one system there.
Correct.
And the problem always was, because the cell block has to run all the time, it had to run at a certain temperature, and everything else went off of that originally, and it just really wasn't. But again, you're building a building, you're always trying to do, the funds get cut back, so you gotta do what you can do.
Right.
So I think that would be a good setup, if they could do split units and have heat cooling in those units.
Different units.
And do the different areas, because that way you can turn them up, down, wherever you want.
And in the fall, you could actually open the windows and use
Right.
regular air, which you can't do that right now.
Right.
So you're referring to the Green Communities grant? the
Yeah.
town got,
I
and they're
think
gonna
part
go
of that is
to
something-
evaluate the building.
Yes.
Yeah, and they can't do that in dispatch, because it's closed in, there's no windows to open.
Correct, the dispatch has to be, and there's no temperature
So,
thermostat. So go ahead, Tom.
so I'm thinking basically what he did say here, instead of taking 6,000 out of, what do we got, 25,000 in the reserve fund?
Mm-hmm.
If this can be fixed now, and then put an article on this, assuming, which I'm assuming this is, and based on what he's saying, assuming that there is a special town meeting coming up in October or November like we normally do, or like the town normally does, I should say, then put this article on there and explain it, and then appropriate that amount of money back into that account.
Would the work that we're talking about balancing be done at the same time, before or after this?
It's gonna be after.
It's gonna be after.
It's gonna be after.
So
There's
this
a
is
committee
gonna
looking
have
at,
to be done.
this is a fix that we have to,
I think
we're gonna
there's-
have to do.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
It's your meeting. I think they're separate and distinct.
Okay.
Yeah, this needs to get done separately
the other
until
thing
the
will have to-
future.
The other thing will have to be studied, it have to be engineered, it's gonna have to be put together with a specification.
Right,
That's a whole
right.
big
Yeah,
long
no, it's just
process,
something that they're
so-
definitely looking at for the future. That's all I wanted to
So,
bring out.
so what would be the risk of taking the money out of their existing funds?
That they could have a shortage in the spring
Right.
and then come to us at that point.
And if they went to fall town meeting, the risk would be that it wouldn't be appropriated, but that doesn't seem likely to me, but that would be the risk, yeah.
Right, right.
I mean, obviously, and Seth said it, it's whatever. It's our determination, how we
Right.
wanna handle this. They
Right.
have the money right now in their
They have
account.
the money, yeah. According to what he says, yeah.
Correct.
So better to do it than not, right now.
It's gonna have to be done.
Right.
The
But
fix
do-
needs to be done, but whether or not we take the funds from the reserve fund is the question.
Well, so if we do fund it now, and in the fall special town meeting, is the article then to replace that funding or back in the reserve? Or is it gone at that point?
I would say it's gone at that point. I can't see that.
I think you can do it, I think you could put money back in the reserve, but that's never usually happened.
Yeah. I know my preference is to have them take it out of their budget.
Yeah.
And then put it on to the special town meeting in the fall, or if that doesn't go, then we have to worry about it in the spring
In the
when
spring,
when
right.
there's shortages.
And I'm sort of leaning the same way. I think I'd like to see, if they have the money in their budget now, if we're not gonna shut down something,
Correct.
then if they have the money, I think that
Right.
that's the way to go, and then we can catch up with it, as we see that.
Okay, is there a
And which is the reason for the reserve fund, is to do something you gotta do now when there's no money available.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I'll make the motion that we take no action on this reserve fund transfer.
I
And
second.
recommend that they do what we just said.
And recommend them. Yeah, well, to me, that's on them to figure it out. Mine is no action on the reserve fund transfer.
Because they're requesting the transfer, and
Right,
we're
right,
saying,
exactly.
So it's a
Okay.
disapproval.
yeah, I second that motion.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Opposed? No. Okay.
It's 3-1. I just think we should, he's asked here, he says, he's looking for some direction, that's the only reason I asked it.
Right.
If we should add that in there, saying, look,
Well,
we're saying no right now, but
choice.
we're
Right.
suggesting that you do that.
You don't wanna micromanage, let the
Let him do
manager
it.
manage.
Okay.
All right, next. The reformulated water and sewers budget. We're privileged to have Mr. Buckley here. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Yourself?
Good. Would you just go over this and just?
There's a lot of information, and I'm
Uh-huh.
going to
Yeah.
try and
You think?
I'm going to try and go like this, if at all possible. Some of the best ones here to look at are the letter from town administrator.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
very helpful.
Yep,
And the one from the Department of Revenue, the email from the Department of Revenue, which gives us direction on what we can and cannot do.
Yep.
yep.
So I actually requested this meeting because of what had come out of our meeting with DOR.
Okay.
Okay. Department of Revenue basically said, look, as of June 30, we consider your current water enterprise and your current sewer enterprise closed.
Okay.
Okay? Then they drafted the language and the direction by which we can legally transfer those funds in the fall.
Okay.
So officially, we have a new enterprise account, water and sewer enterprise account, that took effect July 1. And we have to keep that account in place based on the way the language was written and the vote was done at town meeting for 3 years. So the combined water and sewer account now is on the books for 3 years. The big budget here is something I had to send to DOR, okay, that basically outlines how we're going to spend money for water and sewer.
Although the account is set up, there's no money in it.
There's no money in it. Okay.
So far?
Do you have any questions so far? The most complicated one here is the DOR stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the thing is, there really isn't an account as of July 1st for the combined one until we vote in the fall.
Doesn't
but
matter, it's already done. They consider it active.
Until you vote the right language that they want.
No, they consider it active July 1. DOR considers that a fresh and brand new account as of July 1.
So what does it mean if there's no money in it?
Well, there's always money coming in from enterprise.
Okay.
Right, no.
So we always have money coming in.
Okay.
So
But it's-
in that account as of July 1st, these water and sewer bills that are out now, is this fund, those funds are gonna go into that account?
Yep,
Okay.
Okay.
But as of July 1st, there was no money in it.
as of July 1, no. We will, we have written to Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation and officially asked for an extension to pay our last bill.
Okay.
As far as I know, that was granted.
Well, that would be good.
Yes. Some other interesting issues. DOR is pretty strict. If their thoughts were if we didn't follow their prescribed direction, and I don't have it in front of me, so I can't give it to you verbatim. They wouldn't let us set our tax rate.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, do you want this?
No, I've got it.
Okay, okay.
I read it 4 times. I was there.
Yeah.
Well, I was there. I talked to Mary Jane at length. Most of it's up here. I mean, that was a long conversation. As you can imagine, there's a lot of detail, a lot of back and forth. One of the things she asked us to do was to prepare a new budget and send that along to her, and that's this document.
Okay.
Now, technically, more often than not, you folks would approve a budget, per se, or recommend a budget being approved at town meeting.
Yeah.
This happened after that. That's why I came in to talk to you.
So there's nothing for us to do with this, right? This is just FYI.
It's basically just FYI.
Okay.
But if you have any genuine questions or you have any genuine concerns, now's the time to raise them.
Was there anything, I mean, what was the comparison? This is FY '20, right?
Yes.
What was the comparison to FY '19?
That's what's tricky, because,
Good to know.
well, technically, you had 2 separate accounts.
Yeah.
So.
You have 2 separate accounts? No.
No.
No,
No?
it's one account.
Te-
One account
At
now.
least on paper, we have 3.
Okay.
2 that are closed
Yeah.
and 1 that's active.
Okay.
This is the budget for the one that's active,
Got it.
okay?
Okay.
So you really can't compare them the same. I mean, we did have comparisons when we proposed the original budget.
But, all right. So 2 become 1, but,
Actually, 2 cease to exist and a new one starts all over again is how DOR looks at it.
okay, and I understand that.
Okay.
But the 2 that ceased to exist, they accumulated expenses and revenues.
Right.
And this is a proposal to do the same thing only in one account.
Correct.
Okay. And the difference between the two, I haven't seen the,
There isn't a lot.
okay,
The only thing that's really different between this and the one we originally proposed is this has the new rates.
okay,
So it actually balances.
okay. So this would, I'm a new guy here.
It's all
so-
good. Yeah, that's why I came in.
So this is not a tax, a property tax?
No,
Okay.
this is based on, so for
You use the water, you pay for the water.
you use the water, you pay for the water,
Okay.
and conversely the sewer.
Okay,
You have a water meter at your house, and we bill you for so many CCF coming in, and we bill you for the same amount of CCF going out.
okay.
There's a couple other charges on that bill.
See, I'm sort of unaffected by it, because that section doesn't have sewer or water.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks pretty straightforward.
Right.
I mean,
Still-
reading all this stuff, there was an awful lot of stuff going
Yeah.
back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Can
Yeah,
I,
but
can I
okay.
tell you, it was a long process.
I'm sure it was.
We brought in a consultant to do the study. We went back and forth with the lawyers. There was some contention that there was a hope that we would be able to pay water back, or somehow DOR said you can't do that.
Right. Yeah, once you move it, it's.
Really the linchpin in all of this, or the thing that really finalized it, was Department of Revenue's direction.
So if you were on the sewer system, water system,
Sure.
how would you feel about this information?
You're not going to be happy because your rates are going up.
Okay,
So roughly on average, every home, about $300 a year for
Okay.
water and sewer.
increase or just,
Up.
okay,
Increase.
okay.
It was a big hit.
So,
But, keep in mind, there is some belief that there was some deficit spending going on there.
Uh-huh.
And that's not appropriate. So by artificially keeping the rates low, there has been some deficit spending.
I agree.
And that's,
But the taxpayers
So-
weren't necessarily aware of that, and then to have that, or then all of a sudden get that kind of increase, it's a big, it's a
it
shock.
is.
It's a
so,
shock.
so it's not deficit spending, it's spending somebody else's money here. Money from the tax rate.
No.
No,
What
this has
happened-
nothing to do with the tax rate. This is all, whatever comes in from water and sewer goes
No,
in here.
But if you're, you can't spend money you don't have. So deficit spending is a neat thing to have, but you have to be able to get the money from someplace. A bill here is gonna be paid. If it's not coming in from the water and sewage, it would be deficit spending, but it has to be moved in from some other place, right?
The way they saw it was, what was happening was, they had some retained earnings. So let's say they had retained earnings of, I don't know, $200,000 or $300,000.
Okay,
And their expenditures would leave them $50,000 or $60,000 short at the
Okay.
end of the fiscal. So they would knowingly take the money out of retained earnings to cover the $50,000 or $60,000 shortfall.
okay.
And you're allowed to do that once.
What's,
Or
okay,
but in this case, it happened 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
And some of it was not necessarily, some of it was things that were out of the town's control, like a very, very wet fall drove costs up.
right,
Out-of-town costs, which are 80% of the sewer charges here,
right, right.
have gone up probably 20% in the
Right.
last 5 years. So there's been some factors, but regardless, you knew you were short, yet you didn't raise rates for the
Right.
following year.
Right.
And then you would go back and hit that same well again. And that was where it was looked at as a deficit approach,
So where was the retained earnings coming from
previous years.
previous years? So we were making money in the previous years, and it was going into the account.
Yep.
It was held aside.
Yep.
And so now,
We did a couple things. One, we used retained earnings to do capital improvements.
okay, well, that's
And-
smart. I mean, that's the right thing to do.
Yes. The problem is, if you let your capital improvements go under the guise of trying to save enough money to do it,
Right.
sometimes you end up overextending yourself.
Right,
And that happened in a couple cases, because these are utilities.
okay. Okay, so this then will become an item in the next budget round?
Yes, we will
Okay.
go over the water and sewer enterprise funds.
Got it.
They'll come in with budgets for them next year.
Okay,
So this is gonna be an item in this budget season at some point in the fall for this year.
town meeting's gonna have to bring this up.
Correct.
There's
And
very
then there'll be
specific.
a new budget for 2021
Correct.
in the budget process. Correct.
Yep.
Well, I'm just trying to answer the question.
Well,
without the
yeah,
question.
and I guess
I don't wanna-
that poses
You're
a,
right.
And I'm
That's what
sorry.
saying.
that
I
poses,
hate saying, your first name again?
it's Pete
Joe.
O'Malley.
How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
I don't remember Pete from the previous.
Yeah, he's
I've
been
only been here 2 times.
He's
already.
new, he's only been a couple of months.
So,
Pete, I'm Joe Buckley. I'm the Director of Public Works.
they talk about you all the time, Joe.
Oh, that's good.
So I guess then the question is, if it's going to be part of it's already in the 2020 budget, which has been approved, and now the change is 2 to 1. That's
Yes.
basically it,
Yeah, there's a little more to it, and it's not a lot, so I'll try and explain it.
right,
So, the problem was in 19, we were in the hole.
right,
So, there's money left over in the old 2 accounts
okay,
that's going to be used to get us out of the hole.
right,
That has to be done at the fall town meeting, and there's a very specific verbiage and vote
Right.
that has to be taking place to
Right.
do that.
okay,
That's the only thing that you didn't.
okay. And then next
And
year,
here's the thing, though, the people we're in the hole with is Department of Conservation and Recreation, and if you don't pay that bill, they start to go after both the town's state aid from the town,
yeah,
or could possibly increase taxes against the town to cover the balance.
okay,
Neither of those things we want.
no. Undesirable, okay, I'm done.
That's all good.
Okay. That's how you
It's
learn.
it's very tricky.
So,
Yeah.
so on this sheet here,
Yep.
these columns that say water and sewer operations, I'm
Yep.
assuming is, if you take this budget number here,
Yep. If
so
you
at this point, these are the totals from, if these two here are added, is the total of those?
sure if
And then this
it's
section is the total down to here,
yep.
and so forth? Okay.
Right, so the gray is the individual breakdown of everything in 440 or wages for sewer. And that's $44,352.94, but the actual breakdown, regular, administrative, that's how that works.
Yep, okay.
If you want to go over them, we can. There's one concern I have on the back side. So we went through all of this, and we got a letter from DCR at the end of July that basically increased our rates. So we had concerns that this budget wouldn't be enough to pay all of our bills. But again, these are estimated bills, so you don't always know how much water everyone's going to use. We have averages we rely on, you know. And if we had another wet year like we had in 18, 19, even the budget we tried to get right could be a little short.
Right.
Having said that, the town administration, myself, the administrator, and our town council have been in negotiations and already sent written correspondence to DCR protesting the rate increase. The reason we did that was because in the intermunicipal agreement, there's a deadline for which DCR can propose a new rate.
One of your letters, we have a copy of that.
We haven't heard back from DCR yet, but that's just another concern. So obviously, we made every effort to make sure it balanced, made sure we could pay all our bills based on past stuff, but that one we didn't see coming.
So are you facing a deficit this year?
Hopefully
Potentially.
not.
Okay,
But there is a potential.
There's a
There is
potential. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't call it out.
got it. So this is an annual budget, but your expenses, revenues and expenses are all monthly, or?
Quarterly.
Yeah,
We have, basically, on the sewer side, the quarterly charges are an assessment we pay to the Upper Blackstone Wastewater Pollution Abatement District.
okay,
Those are the folks who treat that.
right.
Someone from Rutland sits on the board.
Mhm.
We also have transportation through Holden and Worcester.
Mhm.
That's the DCR bill. All right. Then we have the MWRA charge, which is to maintain the pipelines.
Okay,
Okay. Those are the 3 out of town charges.
okay. And those are all quarterly?
Those are all the bills come in quarterly, yes,
Okay.
and we bill quarterly.
Okay. So you'll know as you go through the year
Sure.
whether or not you're gonna start seeing some issues.
Yes.
Okay. And you can't deficit spend, right? You can't you can't spend money you don't have. You're gonna have to get a transfer at some point for, if you find out in the first quarter, whoops, we guessed wrong.
Well, we raised rates 55%, so I'm hoping we didn't guess wrong.
Okay, that's great.
And
But if
and the
you
budget
did-
and the consultant we used estimates that our retained earnings will get around 15% over the next 5 years.
Okay.
So we should be able to recover.
And that's great, but as you were saying,
If you don't, then
if you have a wet period of time, and who knows what the hell's gonna happen with the weather.
you don't know.
So if you do run into that situation,
You-
what's the mechanism to be able to get you whole?
Back to the selectmen for a rate increase.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And you're gonna go through the process
Because
of
we can't
advertising it
transfer from
and,
reserve to
having
an
a
enterprise fund.
public
You
hearing
can't.
and raising the rates.
Okay, would that then,
But by the next quarter, but then that goes back to what you said about they don't want you to use retained earnings, but you would have to in that case because
You would have to
missed
in
the
that.
mark.
They would what they were saying was you would have to do that. But when you start to write your budget for the
Correct.
following January,
Okay.
to start,
You should
you
hit it as
should-
quick as, as accurate as you can.
right, they would say, you know what, you
Right.
should have been raising rates right along or raising
Correct.
rates more, and you
Right.
just didn't.
Correct.
okay. All right,
It's a good question, though. Hopefully I don't have to get there.
yeah, I know.
Most of the water rate increases, electricity and increased labor costs because they settled the union settled their contract.
All right. Any further questions or discussion, or?
Nope.
I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Sure.
Do you need to vote on this?
Well, this is the budget for 2020.
This is because the one and I'm just trying to respect your process. I'm not trying to,
No, we're trying to,
We're going to have to, at the special town
Town meeting,
meeting,
yeah.
when there's a warrant for that, then we'll make the recommendation at that point.
Right.
We
Yeah.
don't actually approve the budget.
no, I know
We recommend the
that. You
budget.
recommend or you don't recommend.
yeah, so the town meeting in the fall will have to recommend.
Right,
But-
so
but
the
not
town meeting
this-
in the fall should have that, whatever that wording has to be that's correct.
Oh, we'll have that from-
And then there should be an article for this budget to amend what we did at
Right.
the annual town meeting to adjust, correct, whatever the right words are.
Yeah, the
to
DOR
put
is
this
gonna
in place.
hold,
They've got a very specific
Yeah.
language they
Yeah.
want you to follow, and it's not so much an amendment, it's just some additional,
Right.
just
Well, if
another.
these numbers aren't the same as what's there in May, then it has to be an amendment.
It's,
the numbers are the same except for the rate increase, which
The budget, I thought you said the budget numbers were a little bit different.
on which one, I'm sorry.
On the-
You
on
just
this
caught me
new-
off guard.
No, on this sheet, you said
Yes.
these are just slightly different from what we had done in May.
Right, they're actually a
Yeah,
little
so-
higher.
They're a little higher, so
Right.
they have to be done.
that's because of the
Right.
rate.
So
Yeah.
they'd have to be.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no, that's what
No, that's what
yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah, we're all saying the same thing.
So no
Yeah.
other questions about the DOR stuff, or
Well-
why we're here, or?
I mean, we're here.
I'm sure there's gonna be, I'm gonna have some questions possibly, but I wanna read it. I mean, I'd like
There's a
to-
lot there.
There's a lot there. Some of that stuff is what you had before. And I don't wanna say I said something, but I did. When I started on the finance committee, I was questioning those enterprise accounts and what was going on with them. I started right then because they were very large and what were we doing with them? And why were they so large?
What's that?
The previous enterprise account retained earnings.
Oh, sure. Okay. That was before I was there.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, no,
Oh,
this
no
is-
question about it. It was before you here, but
I mean, you should have a healthy retained earnings for emergencies. Water mains break, sewer
You should
mains
have
break.
some there.
Yeah, you absolutely should.
Absolutely. But I'm just saying, there was quite a bit there, and
I mean, our water lines are
every
getting
time
old.
it came up, whether it was
You
at
do
this
have a
meeting
lot.
or at town meeting, I had questions on it.
So you're saying it was Obama's fault?
I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. There's no gain in that. I'm just here to make sure that it works, that's
Yeah.
all.
That's all we're trying
I'm
to
not saying it was
Yeah.
any fault, I'm just saying that that's how, like you just said, that's sometimes how the process is. Sometimes you think you're doing the right things, and then boom, all of a sudden it doesn't fall in the right place, and doesn't
Right.
Yep.
get in there. So-
Part of this includes loans and some borrowing to get started on the capital repairs.
This is nothing more than just management of the function, you know?
That's it.
That's all it is.
And as long as we know someone's on top of it, we have to go with the management,
Well,
most
thank
of the time.
Yep.
It's not been a fun issue.
I'm sure it hasn't.
Well, you've worked hard on all of this. Very hard.
You kind
We
of
appreciate
commented
it.
that right away, didn't you?
That's okay,
So anyway, I'd like to read through this.
by all means. And you know what, if you need me to come back, I can come back.
We
And
appreciate
if you
it.
think that that's best to get ready for your fall town meeting and you want me to come back, I'm more than willing
Yeah,
to do
if
that.
we have questions just before that, we'll catch. Well, once
Yeah.
we see all the wording from the select board and everything else and what's on it and how it's put, there may be some questions. for you,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I think it's prudent, just communication is critical. So if
Yep.
you need me to come in, I'm more than willing to do that.
Great,
All right?
yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Thank
as well.
you.
Thanks again, appreciate it. All right, next thing on it is the ATFC invoice for our membership dues.
What is that?
I don't know, cookout at
Social
the end of the
town
year?
finance committees.
Yeah.
It's our
Is that the same
dues,
amount we paid last year?
What is it again?
it's our dues for the finance
Association for
committee.
Town Finance Committees.
There is such a thing? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
I just caught me off guard. I just didn't know.
Through Maya.
Oh, it's through Maya? No,
You know, come on now.
I just didn't know.
You know, you get a bunch of us geeks sitting in a room and we all talk and commiserate about how the DPW chair doesn't know it, so don't worry about it.
I make a motion that we pay our.
Look, I went to
association
engineering
dues
school. I bring the new meaning to the word geek. Come
Have a
on.
To
second,
the ATFC for $180.
questions?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Old business? We have nothing, other business, new business, other business?
I move to
Entertain a motion.
adjourn.
Well, I only would ask one thing. Last year, when they planned the town meeting, they didn't ask us if we were available, and we were worried about getting a quorum, so I would say that we should touch base with Mike to make sure that the selectmen reach out when they're planning their fall town meeting.
Yeah, before.
Right, exactly, before it's
Way
booked,
before.
and then it's because we had a problem with, we almost weren't gonna have a quorum, and that's the only thing.
Okay.
I believe the date they're looking at is the 16th of November. That's preliminary discussion with Mike.
Hopefully they won't need such a big venue.
I hope not.
Where was it warm in there?
Oh,
That's the way it should be.
Oh, well, that's true.
And don't worry, in the wintertime, we turn the way down, so don't worry, it's cold. Sorry, go ahead.
All in favor of adjourn?
Aye.
aye.
Meeting is adjourned.